Kamsi's plight. In the heart of a small, vibrant village nestled deep in the African wilderness was a girl named Kamsi. She was known throughout the village for her infectious laughter, her kind heart, and her love for the natural world around her. The people in the village often spoke of how she could be seen dancing in the fields, chasing after butterflies with her long braids flying behind her. Kamsi's world was filled with beauty and joy, a world crafted by her parents' love and care. Her father, Obina, was a wise hunter, respected by all in the village. He knew the forest like the back of his hand and often shared stories of the old ways and the spirits that lived among the trees. Her mother, Neka, was the village healer, known for her gentle touch and deep understanding of the healing herbs that grew in the wild. Together, they were a strong, loving family, and Kamsi was the apple of their eye. One sunny afternoon, as the family prepared to go to the market in the nearest town, Kamsi couldn't contain her excitement. She loved the bustling market, where the air was filled with the smell of roasted corn, fried plantains, and the sounds of traders calling out their goods. It was a rare treat for her to visit the town, and she had been looking forward to it all week. As they drove along the dusty road leading to the town, the car suddenly swerved, the tires screeching on the gravel. Before Kamsi could comprehend what was happening, the world spun violently around her, and everything went black. When she awoke, the first thing she noticed was the silence. The car was still, and she was alone. She tried to move, but pain shot through her leg, making her cry out. The car was upside down, the windshield shattered, and her parents were nowhere in sight. Panic surged through her chest as she struggled to unbuckle her seatbelt. Kamsi, a familiar voice called out weakly. It was her mother. With great effort, Kamsi managed to crawl out of the wreckage. Her eyes widened in horror as she saw her parents lying on the ground, bloodied and broken. Her father wasn't moving, and her mother was barely breathing. Neka, stay with us. A voice shouted from nearby as villagers who had witnessed the accident rushed to their aid. But Kamsi's mother only managed to whisper one last word to her daughter before she closed her eyes forever: survive. Kamsi stood at the edge of the burial grounds, her heart heavy with sorrow. The villagers had come together to bury her parents, their voices raised in mournful songs. But Kamsi felt alone, lost in a world that had suddenly become cold and cruel. She had no other family, no one to turn to, and the weight of her mother's final word, survive, pressed down on her, crushing her spirit. After the burial, the village elders gathered to discuss Kamsi's future. The village had always been a close-knit community, and they prided themselves on taking care of their own. But times were hard, and resources were scarce. Each family had their own struggles, and taking in an orphan girl was not something anyone could do lightly. She is just a child, one of the elders said, his voice full of pity. We must find a way to help her. But the others were silent, each of them weighed down by their own burdens. Finally, it was decided that Kamsi would be sent to live with her aunt in the city, a woman she barely knew. The city was a far cry from the peaceful village Kamsi had known. It was loud, crowded, and filled with strange people who seemed always to be in a hurry. Her aunt, Auntie Chioma, was a stern woman with little time for a grieving child. She lived in a small, cramped apartment, and made it clear from the start that Kamsi would have to earn her keep. You are not a baby anymore, Auntie Chioma would say. Life is hard, and you must be strong if you want to survive. Kamsi was forced to grow up quickly. She was enrolled in a school in a rough part of the city, where she was often bullied for being the new girl, the country girl. Her classmates mocked her for her village accent, her simple clothes, and her quiet demeanor. But Kamsi kept her head down, determined to honor her mother's last wish. But as the months went by, life in the city became increasingly difficult. Auntie Chioma's business was failing, and money was tight. The food became scarcer, and Kamsi often went to bed hungry. She tried to help by doing chores and running errands, but nothing seemed to be enough. Then, one night, everything changed. Auntie Chioma came home late, her face twisted with anger. Kamsi, she said, her voice trembling. You are old enough to start earning your own money. I can't keep you here for free. Kamsi looked at her aunt, confused and scared. But I don't know how to make money, Auntie, she said, her voice small. Auntie Chioma's eyes softened for a moment, but then they hardened again. You will learn, she said, her tone final. That night, Kamsi lay awake in her small bed, her mind racing with fear and uncertainty. She had heard stories from other girls at school, stories about how some girls made money in the city. But she didn't want to believe that her aunt would ever ask her to do such things. But as the days passed, it became clear that Auntie Chioma had no other plans. She began to introduce Kamsi to older men who would visit the apartment late at night. At first, Kamsi refused, her heart filled with disgust and shame. But the hunger in her belly and the desperation in her aunt's eyes eventually wore her down. I have no choice, she told herself, repeating the words over and over like a mantra. I have to survive. And so, Kamsi's life took a dark turn. The once joyful girl who danced in the field and chased butterflies was gone, replaced by a girl who had to grow up too fast, who had to do things no child should ever have to do. As time passed, Kamsi learned to wear a mask that hid the pain and shame she felt deep inside. During the day, she went to school, her face blank and her eyes dull. She avoided the other children, afraid that they would see through her mask, that they would know the terrible things she had done. But at night, she became someone else. The men who visited her were strangers, faceless figures who took something from her each time they left. Kamsi numbed herself to the horror of it all, telling herself that it was just a way to survive, just like her mother had told her to do. Yet, deep down, Kamsi knew that this was not the life her mother had wanted for her. She could still hear her mother's voice, soft and full of love, telling her stories of the old ways, of the spirits that watched over the forest. Kamsi wondered if those spirits had abandoned her, or if they were still watching, weeping for the girl she had become. One day, as she walked home from school, Kamsi noticed a group of girls around her age gathered at the corner of a street. They were laughing and talking excitedly, and for a moment, Kamsi felt a pang of longing. She missed the days when she could laugh without fear, when she could be a child without the weight of the world on her shoulders. She hesitated for a moment, then walked over to them. The girls stopped talking and looked at her with curiosity. Hey, aren't you the new girl? One of them asked. Kamsi nodded, unsure of what to say. The girl who had spoken smiled and introduced herself as Ada. She was tall and confident, with bright eyes and a warm smile. We were just talking about the protest happening tomorrow, Ada said. It's against all the bad things happening to girls like us. You should come with us. Kamsi blinked in surprise. A protest. She had heard about such things on the news, but she had never imagined being part of one. She felt a flicker of hope, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe, she said quietly, not wanting to commit just yet. Ada noticed her hesitation and leaned closer. Listen, Kamsi, we all have our struggles. But we can't let this world break us. We have to fight back, together. Kamsi looked into Ada's eyes and saw something she hadn't seen in a long time, strength. It was a strength that came from knowing who you were and what you were worth, a strength that Kamsi had lost somewhere along the way. Maybe I will come, Kamsi said, her voice a little stronger this time. Ada grinned. Good. We'll be waiting for you. As Kamsi walked away, she felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of her was scared of what might happen if she joined the protest, scared of what Auntie Chioma would say. But another part of her, a part that had been buried deep inside, felt alive again. For the first time in a long time, Kamsi dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, there was a way out of the darkness. A way to reclaim her life, to honor her mother's memory, and to survive not just in body but in spirit too. But little did she know that the path she was about to take would be filled with even more challenges, challenges that would test her strength, her courage, and her will to survive. The next day dawned with a sense of anticipation in the air. Kamsi could feel it as soon as she woke up. The city seemed different somehow, as if it were holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. She hurried through her morning routine, her mind racing with thoughts about the protest. She had never done anything like this before, and part of her was still uncertain. As she got ready for school, Kamsi noticed Auntie Chioma watching her. Her aunt's eyes were hard, as usual, but there was something else there, something that made Kamsi uneasy. "You're leaving early," Auntie Chioma remarked, her voice cold. "Yes, Auntie," Kamsi replied, trying to keep her tone neutral. "I have some extra work to do at school." Auntie Chioma nodded slowly, but Kamsi could tell she wasn't convinced. "Be careful out there," her aunt said, her voice lower. "The streets are dangerous, especially today." Kamsi didn't respond. She grabbed her school bag and headed out the door, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew Auntie Chioma didn't care about her safety. Her warning was likely a veiled threat. If she found out Kamsi was going to a protest, there would be consequences. But for the first time in months, Kamsi didn't care. She was tired of being afraid, tired of letting others control her life. As she walked toward the meeting point, she noticed that the city was indeed different. The usual bustle of people going about their business was absent. Instead, there were groups of people gathered on street corners, talking in hushed tones, their faces filled with a mixture of excitement and fear. Kamsi felt a thrill run through her. Something big was happening, and she was going to be a part of it. When she arrived at the corner where she had met Ada and the other girls, they were already there, along with dozens of others. There were girls and boys, young men and women, all gathered together, holding signs and banners. Some of the signs read, "Protect our girls," and "No more silence." The slogans filled Kamsi with a sense of purpose. This wasn't just a protest, it was a fight for survival, for justice, for a future. Ada spotted her and waved her over. "Kamsi. You made it," she called out, her voice bright with excitement. Kamsi smiled nervously and joined the group. The girls welcomed her with warm smiles and reassuring words, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Kamsi felt like she belonged. These girls weren't just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for each other, for all the girls who had been forced into lives they didn't choose. As they began to march, chanting their slogans, Kamsi felt a surge of energy. The crowd moved as one, their voices rising together, echoing off the tall buildings that lined the streets. People came out of shops and homes to watch, some cheering, others staring in silence. But no one could ignore them. They were demanding to be heard, and Kamsi felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, this would make a difference. But as they reached the city square, where the protest was supposed to culminate in a rally, the mood shifted. Kamsi noticed a line of police officers ahead, their faces stern, their hands gripping batons. The crowd slowed, uncertainty rippling through them. The chants grew quieter, replaced by nervous whispers. Ada, ever the leader, stepped forward, raising her voice. "We have a right to be here. We have a right to be heard," she shouted, her voice defiant. The crowd took up her words, chanting louder, refusing to back down. Kamsi's heart raced as she joined in, her voice blending with the others. For the first time, she felt powerful, like she was doing something that mattered. But then, without warning, the police moved forward. The peaceful protest quickly turned chaotic. The officers began pushing the crowd back, their batons raised threateningly. Some of the protesters tried to stand their ground, but the police were relentless, shoving people aside, breaking through the crowd. Panic set in. People started running in all directions, trying to escape the violence that was erupting around them. Kamsi found herself caught in the crush of bodies, struggling to stay on her feet. She lost sight of Ada and the other girls, her mind consumed with fear.
I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, comment, share it with your family and friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.